Welcome to the Autonomous Sales webinar. And this webinar will be in two parts. Part one is me explaining how strategy goes and how you should think and what are the consequences for sales teams and some really cool examples. And the second part is we dig deep into the tooling itself and into the machinery of how to do certain things. So it's a mix between strategy and tactics, and that's the way we like things at School of Sales. So let's dive in straight away. If we look at B2B sales throughout the years, we actually see an enormous evolution. And the first step actually is, let's say 20, 30 years ago, we were focused enormously on one sales pitch, focused on the product itself, and actually the operating speed was pretty slow. What we've seen then through the years, that suddenly things started to speed up. The sales pitch moved from the product towards the company. And what we also see is that we started accelerating the way we would do certain of these business. And then something happened. Social media started coming. We started figuring out as sales that we have an audience out there, and maybe if we post a bit about the product, people would buy. What we see now, today, is something completely different. We've seen that the sales pitch moved from company to product to the person, to the expertise, and we see that the speed has gone up tremendously, and we see that there are multiple pitches and multiple social medias, and suddenly things became very, very complex. So if we would summarize it, we see that we have a hybrid sales model, hybrid social media, always present, always on, always faster. But as you can see, that's today, right? Now, to continue on this flow, what we see is that from a sales methodology, things also moved. So we started out with solution selling where we would have pretty short sales cycles. Then it moved to consultative selling where we have longer sales cycles because they're actually double. People don't trust you, so you sell a POC, you sell an analysis, and then you sell the rest. And then we went to the startup world, provocative selling. That evolved to hybrid selling where you have kind of everything combined. Now, what are the skills to do so? The skills are we need to have customer first, personal experience, trust is number one, omni-channel sales approach, etc., etc. So many things. Now, some of you might think, hang on, Michael, I kind of heard this story somewhere. Yes, you have heard this story before, because those were the slides I used last year. Those were the slides that a few months ago I would present if I had to show something about the future of sales and if I had to talk about how things are going, but then stuff happened. And the stuff that happened was big. This happened. It's just a very small example of what's going on. And one of the things that actually went on a few months ago is I was exposed so much on all these AI tools and I heard so many crazy wild stories that I panicked because I thought, well, sales business is dead. They're never gonna need me. And I thought my content shop called Chaomatic is going to die because they don't need me anymore. And then there are two directions. You fight or you run away. I did something else. I froze. I didn't know what to do. And it took me weeks and weeks to really come up with a new framework. And that's today, that framework we're gonna share with you because it gives you an option, a model to move forward. Now, we've seen all these tools and there's so many more. And then something else happened. We actually had brand new sales gurus. Seen so many videos of guys saying, last week I started an AI company and here is how you can do it too. And they get hundreds of thousands of views, right? But it's not because you know mechanics and you know how to build flows and you're very good with tools that you know the essence of sales and trying to convince people and knowing how to close deals, right? So the effect was enormous. Since then, I've really seen a rise and I've asked so many CEOs, we're getting so much spam and the spam is just getting bigger and all the spam is about, I can get you 20 leads, guaranteed 100%, etc. This is an actual screenshot of my inbox of this morning. And combine that with our badass AI sales gurus, we have something which is no sales, no trust, lots of promise, and what we've seen is so many promises that things fell off a cliff. And then you come to me and wonder, Michael, why, how on earth comes that cold acquisition does no longer work? Well, in order to understand that, we need to take you to a bit more mechanics. Actually, sales started with something called analog sales. Very simple. It's human-centric. It's based on personal relationships. It's based on gut feeling. It's intuitive, and it's based on slow and efficient processes. Right? And then very quickly we catched up and we said, let's move this to the next phase, which is digital sales. And digital sales is suddenly where words like CRM and tech assistant selling and maybe workflows and automation, sales enablement, etc., are coming up. Data-driven, but there is still a lot of human effort needed. So technology in this case supports sales, but salespeople fundamentally drive the process. Now, where are we today? And this is literally based on, we've trained over 2,000 sales with School Hour Sales, and we helped so many companies. So this is based not on everything I read. This is literally based on what I hear every single day. Number one, most sales I meet or most sales team I meet are only reactive. They are, in all bluntness, order taking. Right? And if you're an order taking, you're sitting there, you're waiting, well, that's not the right spot to be. Two, we see that a lot of sales says to me, yeah, we're digital. Yeah, all of that you're saying, Michael, we know all of that. Well, only 50% of them actually use a LinkedIn profile. Just to name one thing in the digital process. For me, digital is not an Excel sheet, by the way, right? And a lot of companies, very large companies, are still doing that. They're very much afraid. And what they're doing is they're copying the analog world of handing over business cards. Nothing wrong with that. But if you have a pattern of analog and you copy it to a digital world where everything is 10 times faster and 10 times bigger, why would you do that, in all bluntness? 3, ICP, Ideal Customer Profile. We're working with Jorik, and every single time when we roll out the sales machine, we give training, we start asking questions about ICP, and I am shocked. I am literally shocked to know that most companies have no clue. Some companies do, and those are the fast-scaling companies. I actually know in the startup world that one of the biggest failures where startups fail and when things go horribly wrong and they need to pivot is because they have their ICP, Ideal Customer Profile, wrong. And last but not least, cold outreach. Most questions we get is how to do cold outreach properly. Everybody hates it, right? Everybody hates it. I only know, I think, 2 people that actually really love it. All the rest just hate it, and it's a must. So they won't put time in, they don't have the skill, they have no idea how to get attention, they have no idea of trust, so they go back to being reactive. Well, add on top a layer of business processes that are not geared to do this, and what you get is a skilled problem. So business, skills, you feel the mumbo jumbo, this is going badly, right? Now, I mean, it's good for School of Sales for training, but actually from a company point of view and from an overall sales point of view, this is really bad. So why is this transition bad? Why is it so difficult? 1, personal knowledge. It's a skill thing. A lot of techniques is skill. You would be amazed if I ask people to write me a cold email and they send me, and I mean, we do this a lot. Most cold emails suck really badly. They're either too long, they only talk about them, and it's crazy because we're paying, a lot of sales leaders are paying tons of money to sales, and when they ask the fundamentals, do me a pitch, send me an email, it sucks. So there is a skills issue there, and it's actually easy to fix. Second is limiting beliefs. A lot of salespeople that I meet don't dare to post something on LinkedIn. They don't dare to do certain things. They're afraid of using certain types of automations because they're like, yeah, but should we? Well, you should in the right way. And that has an impact on the outreach and the proactiveness, right? Company processes, just getting a CRM in-house is not going to do it anymore because you could use an Excel. Okay, you have less data, but these days, I mean, that wouldn't work. So it's more than just CRM. Last but not least, purely leveraging scale. So many times in sales trainings, I have to say it's about speed, quantity, and quality, of course. And by the way, most salespeople tell me, when you get me on the table, I can close. Well, all of the stuff that I'm talking about is how to get on the table. So fundamentally, your prospect has changed. But have you? Have your methods? Have your sales tools? Have your processes? Have your methods and your sales insights? So we need to find a new step in this framework. And this was my aha moment where I thought, now we're getting somewhere. So we move from analog sales to digital sales, and in real life, we do a hybrid of both. But where is it going? Well, you kind of guessed the title of this webinar. It is autonomous sales. Now, What is autonomous sales? For me, it's the next evolution where sales processes run independently with minimal human intervention. And we can debate the human part, how much you will interfere or not, but the dream scenario, of course, is that it runs as autonomously as possible. So that means an AI-powered sales engine that does prospecting, redefining, refining your ICP, hyper-personalization automation, and no need for manual pipeline management, thank God for that, and then AI-driven negotiation, follow-ups, contract signing, all of that, we've seen it's possible, depending which business you are. We'll talk you through how to do all of that. Now, you probably say, Michael, that sounds unrealistic. That sounds like very space. That sounds like a cool idea from a marketing point of view, but it doesn't exist yet. Well, it does exist yet. And you would be scared to know how good it is, right? Here is one example, just one. You'll see some more example of companies that have fully digital workers that transform your workforce, right? The one issue I have a bit of this, and you should check their website. Yes, no, I'm not being paid by them. The one thing, if you look at this, these people are too perfect. The day AI figures out that things must be imperfect to create more trust, then we are in big trouble. But this thing literally does everything. One caveat, it's American. In Europe, a lot of this is actually prohibited. You have certain GDPR rules, like you cannot do AI calling to anybody, etc. But it exists, and it's only going to get better and faster. Now, how do we get to that point? So there are several elements, several steps. The first one is actually we start by becoming properly digital. That's the first step. Digital sales enablement. First of all, it's not only CRM. We're actually going to use some AI, for instance, to do assisted workflows. If something happens, then there is a trigger to do the next step, right? We still see a lot of manual work there. No problem with that. But as we progress, we'll need to start optimizing, automating that process. So we start looking into automated outreach, lead nurturing, engagement, seeing what's happened, and then we'll have AI-driven chatbots that will actually ask the human to help at a certain stage. And last but not least, this gives the opportunity for sales reps to do what they should do, which is focus on high-value conversation and more complex deals. Next step is the augmentation. AI assists with lead scoring, email personalization, predictive analytics, sales teams leverage AI insights, but they still make decisions. I think currently in the market, we're actually moving faster and faster, depending on the company and where you're targeting and the size. What I see, we're somewhere 2 and 3, right? We're somewhere there. Now, the next step is really the next leap, which AI handles full funnel execution, prospecting, outreach, follow-up, and potentially closing. Here you get something which AI will learn and will adapt and move and always improve. Now, one of the things while I was making this, I was thinking about is if we look into B2B, you know I love this hierarchical model in B2B. You have 3 layers, executives, management, and operational. You could draw also pyramid. One of the things we all want is we want to reach that CEO or the executive suite. And what we tend to do is we use all the automation we can find and all the tools Jorik is going to explain to you later on. We use them to get to that person. But the more I started thinking about this model, the more I thought it's actually wrong. Because if trust is the currency, if trust is the most important in sales to close deal, we actually should be very analog. I'm not saying in the way we prepare to go there and the reach out, that should be as automatic as possible, but I think the time we spend with an exec should be as analog as possible because that is exactly what creates trust and that is a differentiator for you going forward. As we move down the hierarchy, we'll see digital and hybrid models mixed, and of course, if we go into operational, that should be as autonomous as possible. And I think it will actually be built that way, so it actually will start floating up. Now, you want to probably, okay, Michael, I'm following up to here, but what about sales teams? How is this going to impact me, my sales teams? You hungry bunch of closers. Now, let me give you a practical example. A few days ago, I was talking to somebody who is very good into the headhunting space of sales, and they are doing a massive project with a very large kitchen brand owner. And I was discussing what type of sales would you hire? I said, you can't hire the classic hunter. Because what's happening in this world, and you see this in every manufacturing type of business, this is a bit B2C, is that you can actually draw on a piece of paper your kitchen very badly. You take a picture and AI will generate the most beautiful kitchen for you, which you can dream of, and it could actually start building it. Now, humans will not just order a kitchen online. You can't do that because there is always a measurement wrong and there is always something going wrong, right? So they'll go to the shop. And here is a differentiator. You don't want the pushy sales. You don't want the big closer. No, because the closing is almost done in the app. What's the difference is that what you need is a really good relation builder. Somebody that has a likability factor. Somebody that people want to talk to, that listens and that says, hey, maybe I have another idea. Or why don't we? They like and they trust to do their business. I know B2C example, but I think we'll see very similar things in B2B. So what's the impact on sales teams? One, efficiency. And it's also one of the first steps. The first thing you will fix is efficiency. You're going to use all these tools and you're going to use AI agents to be way more efficient, right? Second step is the role itself will fundamentally change. One of the things that I noticed the last months is that some very large investment companies are actually trying to kill the famous SDR model. And we've seen the growth of SaaS, software as a service. They've been growing like crazy. And what they would do is they would hire a profile that would build lists and do the outreach for the sales teams, right? They are now in the phase of trying to change that and get rid of that. They're actually looking for salespeople that are efficient, that could do some of this work. I don't think it's going to change dramatically in the next weeks, but I do think in the next year it will change because of the efficiency and the automation, right? Next up is Teams itself. Companies simply will need fewer sales. You heard me saying 80% of them are reactive. Well, in all bluntness, I could use an AI for a big chunk to change that, right? So because they have the knowledge, they might not have the connection, but it will have a massive impact. So it's a cost efficiency process. And when economy gets difficult, like now, trust me, it's the first thing they go. By the way, it's the first thing they phone me up, said, Michael, how can we optimize sales team, right? So you'll have smaller, but way more effective sales teams. And last but not least is decision-making itself. It's going to be no longer gut feeling and intuition. It's going to be way, way more data. It has been already, but it's going to get way, way faster. And as it refines, it will get better and better. Now, when I was making this, I was really thinking, do I want this actually? Right? That's the big question. Do I want this? Well, do you have a choice? That's the other question. So I don't think there is stopping it. What I do fundamentally believe is that the human, and this is where I froze and where I'm now a bit more relaxed, is that your sales role will shift, but you as a human will remain in the center. And you'll have all these AI agents, sales assistants, synthetic sales personas, digital sales, all of that will circle around you to improve what you do. But for now yet, the closing, the connection, will still be one of the key assets. Now, do not underestimate this, because I feel the moment we posted that we would do a webinar, we're talking about this, we immediately got several phone calls of companies says, I want it, whatever. I said, you haven't even done the explanation. No, Michael, we just want it, right? Okay, so it's coming. It's going to start from the bottom and it's going to move up and it will be way faster. You basically need it to be way more efficient and as a competitive edge. Second topic. Sales teams will become obsolete, some of them, because AI is just faster. If it's more correct, that's a different discussion. Eventually, we'll see that, give it another 7 months actually, because it goes that fast. It is getting really, really, really good. Now, is it that bad? Will it go that fast? Well, in the age of AI, who will you trust? Trust will be the biggest currency. And I know many, many companies that actually have on LinkedIn, they have these synthetic personas, sales personas. And one of the issues you have with that is if these personas make an appointment with a CEO and then you show up at the CEO, that you start actually with mistrust. They go like, what, why? So that's why the SDR model was already failing, because you couldn't, as a junior or medium profile, you can't reach out to the exec. It just doesn't work. Right? You need the real connection. So I believe trust is going to be key of essence. How do you get trust? Two things: human touch and the network, right? And here is one thing that, if I can give some advice in all of this complex, sophisticated world, if there is one advice, I see too many people trying to collect data and trying to collect everything, trying to shortcut, trying to sell. I think you should go back to connecting. Connect and do not collect. Now, does it work for you? What's in it for you? Well, we're currently doing 4 projects, trying to achieve the ultimate, which is full autonomous sales. And what we've seen is currently we are getting to 78%. So there is a chunk we can't reach yet. And here are some of the challenges we currently see. So one is we need to double check AI work. Sometimes it literally says weird stuff, right? So at this stage, we're still checking a lot of work, which gives extra burden. 2, you need multiple tools. There is no single tool. You need multiple tools and you need a glue to put them together. 3, the negotiation, closing, meeting part, still you. No need to worry, right? But everybody complains to me, if I get to the table, I can close. Well, what we are trying to do is to get you on the table in an autonomous way. And then you can do your magic. And then, of course, you probably need some extra skills. 4, cold messaging. And that's where a lot of these AI gurus and AI kids, let me call them, go wrong, is they ask ChatGPT, they ask all these tools, but all these models have been trained on shitty cold mails, right? So most of the cold mails that we see coming out of AI machines are actually bad. Actually, most cold emails I see are bad. So that's something that we still have to correct a lot. So at the current state, we're getting closer and closer. We are becoming way more efficient. We absolutely need sales to close and to do the magic. We can actually literally get them so much more meetings, get them on the table. So it's actually a really good spot to be in. But there is a lot of change and it is rather technical once you get into the details of what. Now, one of the things that came out of all these sales machinery building is one of my dreams was actually this one. Could we find a way to get almost to 100% of opening cold emails? Not opening rates, but cold email opening rates. And we did. So, taking you back a few steps. So, there are 2 models. You have the inbound model. You post something, somebody asks you a question, and you write blogs, you do your marketing. People ask you questions, you respond. The other model is outbound. You start reaching out. It's much harder to get attention. Now, what we saw is while we were doing the outreach and we were doing the content posting, we saw people coming to the website. And there is something called dark sales traffic. So people actually looking but doing nothing. So we were thinking, Jorik and I, there must be a way to catch them. There must be a way to figure it out. So we started looking into Google Analytics. You had things like Hotjar. We were looking, there must be a way. And then we bumped into this. We saw that there was a system of actually seeing who was visiting your website, IP tracking. That's not magical. But the interesting thing is, if I post and talk about sales, and I know people coming to my website, chances that they are salespeople is very high, right? So what they also added here is, for instance, the people in the company doing that. So from a legal GDPR point, you can do IP tracking. No problem with that if you have the right cookies. But they'll tell you, these are the people in that company that could be relevant. And then I actually can put them in a flow. I can do it automatically. I can do it manually. I can send them an email. I can do lots of flows. And here is an example of a flow where we actually use LinkedIn. And let me show you the number. It's 100% opening rate. I have multiple companies. And we are between, because a lot of people say 100% is crazy, we are between 88 and 100% every single time. And the reason why is because this is intent. You post something, you do an action, somebody comes to your website, starts looking at a certain page, but doesn't act. So they're looking at they're looking, for instance, at your product, or they're looking at your trainings, in our case, trainings, and you see them staying there and they come back, but they don't click. If then after 3 days, out of nowhere, by accident, they get an email, they will open it. So I have my new friends of lead info. I asked them, I said, this is, I felt like a monkey, you know, the monkey with the symbols, dang, 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 dang. For the last 2 weeks, I've been dancing around, but this is ridiculous how good it works. And this is one step in the autonomous sales machine. So I asked my friends of lead info, I need the world to be able to use this. And so this, if you scan this 2D barcode, you actually get a license that works for 60 days for free. Somebody's paying for this webinar, somebody's doing for this. This is School of Sales, you see the logo behind me. If you need knowledge, if you need more webinars, if you have a whole YouTube channel full, you just Google us, you just go there. We might be looking, you might see us in action, which might be interesting. But now, I'm going to ask Jorik to join the stage and he's going to dig deep into the tasting. By the way, after this, we'll take another 20-25 minutes. We'll actually have time for Q&A. Jorik, time is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. So many companies are looking for hunters, SDRs, inside sales, whatever it's in a name. That's the old school way. Those SDRs or inside sales, what they are doing is contacting cold leads, cold emails, messages on LinkedIn, but get limited reply. They also have not a lot of time to spend with their customers, so they can't close deals. We're now shifting towards a new era where we use an autonomous sales machine. What we're shifting towards now is where sales engineers will spend more time with customers. They will be assisted by sales machines that reach out to leads and develop them into prospects. But how does that look like? Well, let me explain that to you. First of all, Michael explained already about the inbound and outbound sales model, where inbound is marketing, and marketing is doing webinars, is writing brochures, is doing ads and so on, while outbound is doing cold emails, cold calls and so on. But now we see that there's a third model, and that's what we called nearbound sales. And what is nearbound sales? We know that on average, when we reach out to new prospects, that kind of 2 or 3% is ready to buy. That means that the biggest part of the leads that we are reaching out to is not ready to buy yet, but might be in near future. So when we reach out to them, we want the others to keep them close to us. So we want to keep them near us. And we want to stay on top of mind. We need to be present. How do we do that? We do that via LinkedIn, we do webinars and ebooks and so on. So that's the overlap between outbound sales and inbound sales. And another aspect of nearbound sales is that we apply lead score to that. What we will do is we will send messages or reach out to new customers. We will keep them close, but at the same time, we will track their lead score. And what is a lead score? A lead score is a score that how likely is a customer ready to buy. And the sales machines will warm up leads, will contact them, and will identify the warmest leads. So in the past, sales managers were cold calling, for example, hundreds of cold leads. Now the sales engineers or sales managers will only focus on the warm leads that are being sent by the sales machine. So how does a sales machine look like? Well, actually, our sales machine has 5 components. First, everything starts, of course, with leads. Without leads, it's like fuel for your car. It's the basic element. So first, we will start building leads by using different tools depending on your industry. There's always a tool where you can find leads. Second, there's something as lead enrichment. Lead enrichment is a new concept to many people. A lead enrichment is a kind of tool, is a technology that can enrich enrich your leads with additional information, such as contact details. But you can also apply AI agents to filter or to add very specific data. I will explain that later. So now we have a list of leads. Now we need to reach out to them. There are, of course, again, many tools to do that. Old school way is sending cold emails via Microsoft Outlook or via Google, but now that's not the case anymore. Now we will shift to sending cold emails with specific outreach tools that have more effect and where you can monitor the effect of your outreach campaign. Fourth, we need to keep the leads near us, the newbound loop, so we will have to nurture the leads. So we will also think about a way to automatically engage with our potential customer. And then the last aspect of the B2B sales machine is the lead scoring mechanism. And lead scoring mechanism is where we will identify the warm leads. The good thing is we don't have to do that. The machine will do that for us. Okay, let's talk about lead generation. The traditional way of generating leads is buying leads, for example, from companies such as Compass or making lead lists with TrendStop. The problem with that is that it are often static leads. And often those leads are inaccurate. Why is that? Because, for example, the sector or the NACE code are really broad and there's a lot of garbage in your lead list. Nowadays, we have AI and machine learning that can help us creating very, very accurate leads. And I will give you some examples of that. The first one is by using web scraping on website topics. In this example, you see a lead list consisting of companies in Belgium and Netherlands that are active in the field of plasma coating and plasma treatment. In the old school way, that wouldn't be possible because there is no NACE code or there's no industry on that. So we can filter on website topics. And in this example, we used the tool Lucia. Another tool, another possibility is using intent data. Michael already told us about intent, and you can make lead lists based on what companies are looking for. Let me explain this example. In this case, we are filtering companies in Belgium, in hospital clinics and healthcare sector that are actively looking for CRM software. So if we reach out to these companies, we are quite sure that they are looking for a solution regarding CRM. So we can identify hot leads. Also, a third possibility with AI is the lookalike company. Instead of making lead lists based on demographics such as industry, such as turnover or amount of employees, we can now make lead lists based on lookalikes. For example, in this case, imagine our target company is Van de Wiele, it's our ideal customer. We can create lists based on companies that look like Van de Wiele. And here we see a list of companies. So it's a kind of new way of generating leads. I also told you a little bit about lead enrichment, but what is that exactly? Lead enrichment is about adding additional information to your lead list. For example, contact details, email address, telephone numbers, and so on. We can also use AI agents to check things for us, such as how many jobs are open, what's in the recent news, which technology stack are they using. Technology stack means, for example, they are using Outlook or they are using lead info and so on. We can also use AI agents to check if the company is mentioning certain words on the website. Let me give you an example. In this case, I used the tool Baseloop, or it's an alternative for the tool Clay. Clay and Baseloop are tools of which is often spoken. My LinkedIn is full of GMT engineers those are go-to-market engineers and are engineers that build such systems. And that's also part of our solution of the B2B sales machine. In this case, I made a list of companies and I asked an AI agent to check whether each company is a match with our ICP. In our case, we are looking for companies that are active in engineering, machine construction, or in textile. And the AI agent will return with it's a fit or it's not a fit. This saves us a lot of time. In the past, we had to check every company manually, which was really time exhausting. Now, an AI agent can do it for us. If we then add additional data to our leads, to our lead list, for example, LinkedIn posts is something we can scrape. We can scrape if they are looking for jobs, which jobs, what's been mentioned in the recent news. We can start building icebreakers or personalized messages. Michael already told us that it's really important if you send cold emails that it's very personalized. Well, AI can help us with that. So for example, in this case, we made opening sentences, which are called icebreakers, based on what was in their LinkedIn post, what was mentioned in the news, the profiles they are searching for, and so on. For example, hi John, I saw your recent LinkedIn post about the new technology. By the way, I saw you are looking for 3 GTMs engineers, completely generated by AI. Important is we always need to double check it. That's also what Michael was telling us. We have to consider AI as an assistant, not as someone who is doing the job for us. We always need to double check. Fun thing is we can also add personality types. For example, Michael, I checked it on your LinkedIn profile. I see you are a driver. And if we reach out to you, we need to speak very clear with an energetic way of speech. So we can add this in our outreach. So that means if I send an email to Michael, my email will automatically be translated in his personality type. That's really cool. The tool is crystal nice. Now we have our lead lists. We have enriched it with additional data. Now it's time to reach out. The average opening ratio of or reply ratio of a cold email is 2%. That's not a lot. That means if you send 100 cold emails, on average, you will get 2 replies. We reached between 10 and 30% with our B2B sales machine. Here you can see the proof. In the case of 30%, our customer had even 90 conversations or 90 appointments from the first reach out to the new customers. But what is the biggest problem, and Michael explained this already, is this. Many salespeople are not aware that their cold emails are caught up in spam. How does that come? It's because they have a very bad email. They use sales engineer in their signature. There are many ways, many reasons why emails get caught up in spam. And the problem is, once your email is caught up in spam, your orders will end up there too. So we have to be very careful. That's why before starting sending cold emails, there are 2 things that are really important. First is think about an email infrastructure. What does that mean? Well, if we start sending emails for a customer, we typically create a new domain name. And the reason is to protect the existing domain name of the customer at all time, because we don't want to damage the reputation of the existing email or the domain name. Second, we warm up emails. You have a tool such as LambWarm that simulates sending emails to a lot of servers in the world, and those servers say, okay, this is no spam. So you will get a better sender score. And then, of course, we start sending emails. We never use Outlook or Google. We always use tools such as Lemlist because we can track the engagement or the results of our cold outreach flow. We typically make a sequence of 5 up to 7 touch points. That can be email, LinkedIn, that can be even a physical letter, that can be a post, that can be an event, and we try to automate that as much as possible depending on the target group. And there we can see or we can monitor which leads are most likely to buy but don't react yet. And those are the first we will reach out to, again by telephone, for example. Here is an example of tools we typically use for our B2B sales machine. By the way, next week, Thursday, we are organizing again a session about AI tools. I saw there are 3 spots left, and there I will explain how all those tools work and what they can do for you. But now, let's talk about calling. Cold calling. Is cold calling dead? Because we talk about automation, we talk about email and so on. The consequence of automation is that we get a lot of emails. So the importance of cold calling is still happening. Cold calling is absolutely not dead. The thing is, cold calling also is changing because of technology. There are already tools such as AirCall that can monitor our conversations. So imagine I'm an SDR doing cold calls. If I use AirCall, I can automatically transcribe what is being said during the cold calls, and the AI assistant will give me recommendations. For example, I'm doing a cold call and the customer gives an objection. The AI agent will say, hey, this looks like an objection. You should say this or this or this. So AI, SDRs will be helped or will be assisted by AI agents. And of course, when a call is done, then AirCall, the application, automatically logs the conversation in the CRM system. So that's quite a quick win. But there's even a step further. In the US, many companies are already doing autonomous cold calls using systems such as Gong or Air.ai. Those systems can do up to 1,800 cold calls per minute. That's really insane. And they work perfectly. In the AI session next week, I will show you an example of that, of what is possible with that. And in Europe, this is not allowed yet, but we're shifting towards that. Now, the last part of the B2B sales machine is about lead scoring. And I also already explained that lead score is a score about how likely is a customer to buy. And there are 2 aspects on that. You have the lead demographics. For example, if a lead is based in Flanders, is active in machine construction, has up to 200 FTEs, then we give a high score. But there's also something as behavioral data. And what is behavioral data? If a lead suddenly starts opening emails, visiting websites, downloading ebooks, the lead will get a very high score and the system will notice. The B2B sales machine will notice and send that lead to the SDR. And the SDR has to cold call them, or not cold call them, because the lead will be already warm and the chance of conversion will be very high. A tool we use for that is, for example, lead info, where we can detect which leads are visiting the websites and which pages they are visiting. But Michael already explained that. And we can even automate the intents. For example, a lead visits our website, for example, already for the 3rd time, is visiting our training page, then that lead will automatically get an email, a cold email. And here you can see the proof. We reached an openings ratio of 87%. We can build this for you. Of course, there are already systems such as HubSpot that have this in the application. And here you can see the lead score connected to other systems. So HubSpot can track the engagement of each customer. But offline is also coming back. I told a lot about online things, but we see that offline is also important. If I ask you how many cold emails do you get a day, the answer might be 20 up to 30. But if I ask you how many handwritten letters do you get, that's something else. So that's something we also have to keep in mind, that we need to think offline as well. Now it's time for Michael again, and he will explain some more about our B2B sales machine.
Thank you, Jorik. Keep in mind, we'll have some Q&A because I saw lots of questions in the chat and I was answering. So if you see Fran, that was me answering your questions. What I wanted to do is to summarize and to wrap up before we go to question is, if we really start thinking about everything you heard, I painted a picture of really full autonomous sales machines. What Jorik was talking about was, how could you build it today? How does it look? What are the limitations? But we also see the dream where it's going. I think we're in a very exciting time because we're just in the middle. We're in the middle of the old hybrid digital world going towards more and more autonomous AI agents, all this really cool language like AI synthetic personas and all of that. But I think we're in the middle, and I think the big difference will be you, because it needs your knowledge, it needs your speed, and it needs your closing techniques, because that is not yet being fixed. So remember, the flow is you start by enabling, you then automate, you then augment, and then eventually some of the parts in a dream scenario we can completely do autonomous. Of course, School of Sales is paying the bills. What we do is we do the strategy, we do the training, and we do the sales transformation, meaning we are started to build sales machines, which we didn't intend to do actually looking back a few months ago, but this is so complex, we just started saying, hey, let's give an answer, let's do it, let's prove that it works. We're still looking for 2 companies to do it because we only have limited bandwidth. If you want to learn more, there is so much information, canvases, videos. I have a whole YouTube channel, 500 videos explaining every element that you see. Jorik has one. You can go to the School of Sales YouTube, which is a goldmine because all of these webinars, and they're pretty long, they go in a lot of detail. They're actually on there. You also have some jokes. There's a lot of fun on there also, because who said sales needs to be boring? It's on the website, YouTube, you can pick. And keep in mind, before we go to the questions, that we can help you either with building content machines or building sales machines. Both of them go hand in hand, because what you have in the middle is a pure hardcore lead generation machine, which is based on experience. Now, I'm gonna get Jorik into the screen. So
it's time to wrap up.
I suggest we wrap up. If you have any questions, just mail us. It's easy to find. It's at Kianomatic, at School of Sales. Just find us. We'll send the presentation. We'll send some of the slides that over here. So, and if you have any questions on Sales Machine, you know where to find us.